was a Wednesday morning. I received a phone call from my mother at the early hours of the morning. Thursday morning it was. And my father had had an accident. He'd fallen down the stairs. And she said it was pretty bad, which I rushed down to my mother's house, which I found my father, and it turned out he was in complete agony. On that particular morning, I decided then to phone the ambulance, and my father was rushed to hospital, and his injuries were absolutely horrendous, which we later found out.
When my dad had his accident, you know, it was who's all going down to the hospital for this visit, that visit. Everything was well organised so that my dad, you know, had somebody there. We were constantly keeping each other updated.
Speaking to my mother, we were actually preparing. I was talking to my mother about making adaptations to the house in preparation for my father getting out.
When my dad first was taken into hospital, my mum was happy to a certain degree because she thought he was going to get better. And that was on the Thursday. Then we went to see him on the Friday night, and then I took my mum to see him on the Saturday. We got a call from the hospital. I was working, and to go and see my dad because he'd taken a turn for the worse.
I went back down on the Friday, took him down the papers, which transpired to be the last time that I'd seen my father alive. And we received a phone call on a Saturday morning telling me my father had died, passed away, due to his injuries. And it was possibly the lowest point in my life.
Roaring, crying, devastated, absolutely horrendous, because my dad had just passed away and I'd missed that passing. We
were absolutely shattered, but what made it worse was knowing that when I looked at the banister, I knew myself in my heart that was not fitted properly. But what you know yourself and what you can prove are two totally different things.
My brother had started saying, you know, that the banister had not been fitted properly because he had experience from being in the building trade. And after we had the funeral, then that started to build momentum. For me, at the very beginning, I never thought about lawyers or anything. I just wanted my mum to get through this. And it was my brother that actually said that the banister hadn't been fitted. And I remember him saying to me quite clearly that the banister hadn't been fitted. And I remember saying to him, look, we've got enough to do. That's neither here nor there. And thinking, so it's a banister, it's not fitted, what can you do about it? You can't do anything.
The biggest and one of the main driving forces behind going to court was, could this happen to someone else? Could we prevent it?
Our main concern was that we did not want this to happen to anybody else. We had visions that there was might have been some other older person, somebody that was disabled. The same idea could happen to somebody else. I suppose it was more my mum and the impact that it had on her because she needed answers. We decided that I would approach the local authority, the social services, and ask them, you know, what would they be prepared to do? Could they tell us any answers to what had happened? Is this something that could happen to somebody else?
The council, they didn't want anything to do with it initially. They wanted to just brush things under the carpet. But we thought, no, this is not right. This is wrong. We need to get something done about this.
When we asked about the builders, they just said basically there was nothing that they could do. And that was, they couldn't tell us whether they were prepared to stop using the company, how many other jobs this company had carried out. Nothing. They just says it was nothing to do with them. It was a private dwelling. It was nothing. Legal services had told them it was absolutely nothing to do with them. When people were starting, when my sister and that was asking the questions and they were getting nowhere, you start to think to yourself, well, maybe we don't have a case, maybe it's just one of these things and you just got to accept it and go on with it. But again, my brother kept saying, no, I don't think that's the case. And to eventually chap a door where somebody actually thought, no, there is hope here,
there is somebody here that's responsible for this. There is somebody that you can say, well, no, due to your actions, you've left my mum without her husband.
For us, we wanted closure on the whole thing, but we also wanted to acknowledge that my dad had basically died because of the faulty workmanship of this company. That there was a company there who took the money for a job that was entrusted to do a job to keep somebody safe, because that was the whole point of the banister going in.
So when we originally received the call saying that there was light at the end of the tunnel, that somebody did believe us it was from Bonner and Company.
So we then contacted the lawyers and they looked at it, and the good thing about it was they knew the people to contact. They knew the experts to talk to and the experts to put their opinion across on it. And everything was taken from there.
We went along and we had a meeting. It was really quite relaxed, and my mum, if I remember rightly, came along too. My mum being my mum, she's a bag of nerves. And she's also deaf, so it doesn't make a meeting very easy.
They were absolutely tremendous with us. They didn't make you feel awkward. It's their world that you're stepping into, but they made you feel welcome. They dealt with everything. Technicalities, any legal work, they dealt with it. And they kept you informed and they kept in touch with us and they let us know what was going on.
We needed somebody to listen to us, to hear our story and our version of the story. And I think what we really valued was not having somebody that just agreed and says, oh yes, 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 you've got a case, you've got a case. It was somebody that was objective, happy to listen and tell us the truth.
The experts that they brought in, they evaluated the situation, they looked at it from my point of view very clinically, which I appreciate. But sometimes you've got to be devolved from a situation to make a proper opinion on something. And when the opinions came back, it proved what we were saying.
When I went into the courtroom, having never been in a courtroom before, it was very daunting, but every single step of the way with me and my brother and my sister and my mum more so, Bonners were there all the way. And even though I was called into the dock or into the wee box or whichever, I've never seen a judge or anything like that before, so that for me was quite scary. But whenever I got into difficulty, the team of Bonners was sitting on the sidelines, and even for a wee smile or a nod or a wee wink or something just to say you're doing okay, lip reading made me feel so much better and so much more at ease, so that I was able to give my evidence for the hour, 2 hours or 3 hours or whichever it was I was in there.
We just ended up going to court, which is a very, very daunting prospect, because it's an area which we do not live in, we do not deal with. But we were guided through it. We were told what to expect, and most of all we were looked after. And we got justice for my dad.
So it was closure really for us, and a sense of moral victory to say that we were right.